Chapter 4. Weanlings. "Look at the clouds," said Echo Frost. It was several days later. Star and his friends were resting in the tall summer grass. The clouds were scattered above them across a dazzling blue sky. They appeared flat and grey at the bottom, but erupted into tall, fluffy, drifting shapes. Star's thoughts floated with them. The weaning was today, and the migration was tomorrow. "I'm going to fly through those clouds on migration," said Echo Frost, her sleek, silver body glistening in the sun. "They look soft." "They're actually wet," said Morningleaf. "When my mother lands after a flight, she's damp. She calls it cloud sweat." Echo Frost exhaled. "I don't care. I want to see them up close." The sky was the only view that ignited their imaginations. The highest they had flown so far was a few wing lengths above the grass. Since Star couldn't fly, he'd be migrating by hoof with the walkers. "How will they wean us?" he asked, changing the subject. Bumblewind twitched his ears. "I bet there'll be a ceremony and a speech." Morningleaf nodded. "And maybe a cloud flight to celebrate." Echo Frost stared across the meadow at her mother. "I don't want to wean." "Don't think about what you're losing. Think about what you're gaining," said Morningleaf. "We'll finally get to fly higher than the trees. And besides, the head can't migrate with nursing foals." She had their weaning lives all planned out, but Star and the others wanted to enjoy their last day as foals. "All this talk is making me hungry," nickered Bumblewind. The foals rose and trotted to their respective dams. Silver Cloud greeted Star and Morningleaf with a curt nicker. When they nosed into her, she swung her hips out of their reach and kept grazing. "Mama, we're hungry," Morningleaf said. Silver Cloud snorted and ripped a full mouthful of grass. Her lower jaw worked in circles as she chewed. She met their eyes, but her expression was unreadable. Morningleaf shoved her nose into Silver Cloud's underbelly, causing her mother to rear and fly away. Star saw the dams all over the meadow doing the same to their foals. "Something's wrong with the mares," he said. Silver Cloud flew a loop over their heads. "It's not us," she nickered. "It's you. You're weaned." She flew away to join the other giddy mares. "What do you mean?" "That's it," cried Morningleaf. "That's it," whinnied Silver Cloud over her shoulder. Star and Morningleaf stood on the ground in a daze. They trotted to Echo Frost and Bumblewind, who were equally stunned. "I guess there won't be a speech," said Bumblewind. The four friends stood in the grass and stared at one another, and then the truth dawned. "We're weanlings now," said Star. Morningleaf flexed her wings and whinnied. "Big fluffy clouds, here I come!" She galloped forward, flapping madly, and rose higher than the trees. Echo Frost and Bumblewind chased after her, whinnying with delight as they darted through their first cloud. Star could hear their excited neighs from the ground. "It is wet," said Echo Frost, diving through the clouds. "I can't see," cried Bumblewind, and then he exploded out of the white mist. "Everything looks so tiny," neighed Morningleaf, looking down. Star watched them play, happy for them, but with a huge lump in his throat at being left behind. Other foals realized their new freedom and joined his friends in the sky, bombarding through cloud puffs, flying circles around their mothers and neighing with joy. The dams landed back in the meadow where they could have peace and quiet, exactly what they had wanted. Star tensed when a massive black shadow suddenly swept over the herd. He was relieved to see that it was only Thunderwing, swooping across the sun. Always in the back of his mind, Star worried that Rockwing's stallions would come for him again. He could still feel their sharp teeth marks in his wings. Thunderwing landed and called Sunherd to order with a forceful braying. The foals quickly landed, and the Pegasi gathered around, waiting for him to speak. A hush fell over Sunherd. "The migration begins tomorrow," he neighed. Star heard the unique buzzing sound of thousands of Pegasi wings vibrating at the same time. Any opportunity to fly long distances was always met with great excitement by his herd. Star's shoulders twitched in response as he tried to lift his wings, longing to rattle his feathers with Sunherd. Thunderwing continued his announcement. "The walkers and the dud will leave for the northern meadows at sunrise." Star ducked his head as many pairs of eyes darted his way. He hated the term dud and wished they just called him a walker. Thunderwing flapped his wings and hovered above Sunherd, dropping blood-red feathers on the grass. "The flies will follow about a half-moon cycle later," he added. "Give or take a few days, we should arrive in our northern territory at the same time. Jetfire will give the migration report." Thunderwing landed, and the cream-colored captain, Jetfire, flew off the grass so that all the Pegasi could see him. "We won't have much tailwind like we had last year," he said. "The wind currents are traveling west, toward the ocean. It shouldn't slow us down much if we modify our V formations to accommodate it. I'll set up formation trainings for the 7 days before we leave." Jetfire made eye contact with Grasswing, an old, disabled Pegasus who could no longer fly. "As for the walkers, the land is dry from drought. Predators will be scarce, but the chance of fires will be high. Keep your noses to the wind and avoid heavy forest." Morningleaf sidled closer to Star. "Fires? That doesn't sound good." Star preened a hunk of mud out of her flaxen mane. "You worry too much. Anyway, you didn't listen to the good part, scarce predators." "I heard it," she snorted, unsatisfied. "I'd feel better if I could go with you." Star stretched to his full height. "I'm the future stallion here. I should be protecting you." Morningleaf glanced up at him, her ears pricked forward. "Well, there won't be any protecting going off if we aren't together." Star nickered. "That's true." He'd never been apart from Morningleaf for more than a few hours. He was going to miss his best friend on his long migration by hoof. It would take his group a full cycle of the moon to migrate. It would take the flyers fewer than 10 days. Jetfire finished his report with ominous news. "Our scouts tell us Mountain Herd will be migrating at the same time as we are." Echo Frost sucked in her breath. "They always leave a moon later. I wonder what changed." Star knew what changed. Rockwing wanted to keep track of him. "We don't expect an interaction with Mountain Herd based on our course of flight and their standard course of flight from years past. But, to be safe, we're sending the captain, Twistfire, to join the walking herd, and Thunderwing and the army will lead the flyers this year, not the lead mare, Silvercloud." Morningleaf lashed her tail angrily, and she and Star glanced at Silvercloud. The grey mare was expressionless, but Star could tell by the twitching of her ears that she was furious. "He didn't have to do that," whispered Morningleaf. "Armies lead battles, not migrations. They won't be scouting for watering holes or our favorite traveling foods. They'll just plop us down in the middle of anywhere and call it good. Probably fly us too hard, too." Star was surprised to see her so upset, but he didn't believe that it was about the watering holes or the rest stops. Taking the migration from Silvercloud was an insult that would be hard for any lead mare, or her filly, to overlook. Thunderwing dismissed the herd and took flight, soaring towards Feather Lake, followed by Jetfire and a battalion of soldiers. "Where's Thunderwing going?" Star asked. "To check our eastern border," said Morningleaf. "Silvercloud saw a Mountain Herd patrol flying there yesterday." Star shuddered, wondering if the patrol had been looking for him. "They've been coming too close lately," said Bumblewind. Morningleaf fluffed her aqua feathers. Mother says they're outgrowing their territory and they can't expand because they're surrounded on all sides by the other herds. If disease or famine doesn't reduce their numbers, they're going to have to challenge a herd for more space. And we have the best grazing lands in Anok, said Bumblewind, eyes wide. Morningleaf huffed. I wouldn't worry. Our army's larger. Echo Frost shuddered. I hear they're raiders like they kidnap foals. They keep the filly to murder the colts. Morningleaf stamped her hoof. Stop this talk. A foal has not been taken since my father became overstallion. The steeds my mother saw were probably just hunting birds' eggs. Echo Frost made a face, pulling back her lips. That's disgusting. Morningleaf nodded. Silvercloud told me they crack the eggs in their teeth and swallow the yellow slime. Bumblewind gagged. I knew they were short, hairy, and mean, but I didn't know they ate birds' eggs. Morningleaf swished her tail. Forget them. We're weanlings now. Let's act like it. We should graze. Not me, said Star. I need to talk to Grasswing about the migration. Grasswing had once been a captain in Thunderwing's army, but after a horrible battle had left him crippled, Thunderwing made him an honorary overstallion in charge of Sunherd walkers, the Pegasus who were too old or injured to fly. The walkers were grateful because it was impossible for Thunderwing to protect a herd on the ground and one in the sky at the same time, and Grasswing was a legendary battle stallion. I still wish I could go with you, Morningleaf said to Star. I like walking. Star tossed his thick mane. Thunderwing would never allow it. Flying is safer. There are no fires in the sky, and no bears, pumas, or wolves either. You're right about that, she agreed, but that's not why he said no. I asked him last night, and he said he wouldn't have me traveling on the ground like a common horse. She gave Star a sorrowful look. Sorry. Star tried to shrug his wings, and a splintering pain ran down his shoulder blades. It's okay. I don't want you walking either. So, it's settled. Want to practice flying again later? I'll help you, Morningleaf offered. Sure, said Star. He was currently in the grasp of a horrible wing cramp, but he'd learned to hide his pain from his friends. Let's find Grasswing, said Bumblewind. Star trotted across the field with his friends hovering around him like bees over a flower. Sharp weeds ripped at his feathers, leaving a trail of bright red blood droplets in his wake. He found Grasswing over a shady oak. I've been expecting you, said the old Palomino stallion, opening his eyes as he heard them approach. Yes, sir, Ned Star with a bow of his head. And I've been watching you. You're fast, but those things get in your way. Grasswing nodded at Star's limp wings. Yes, sir, said Star, looking at the ground. Can you lift him? No, sir. Star's wings were a sorry sight. He knew. The end feathers were raw and covered in dust. He'd grown used to their weight and the ache that they caused, but he was always hot. While the rest of the Sunherd steeds used their wings to cool their bodies, Star's lay at him like thick moss. He was grateful they were heading north for the summer where it would be cooler. Grasswing nodded. All right, son. Do your best. He held Star's eyes in his gaze like he was searching his thoughts. And don't worry. I'll watch out for you during the migration. Star blinked at him, astonished. The Palomino was Thunderwing's oldest friend. His support was powerful. Star took a deep breath and exhaled long and slow. Maybe he wasn't as alone as he thought. Thank you. Grasswing winked. We'll leave tomorrow. With that, the old warrior closed his eyes and returned to dozing. That evening, the newly weaned foals slipped away from their dams. It was part punishment, part sorrow, but the mares didn't look punished. They looked relieved. Crystal Feather and Silvercloud had been pulling extra duty nursing doubles, and Star saw them rolling luxuriously on their backs, chatting. When his friends were asleep, He quietly loped to Lightfeather's grave in the circle of redwood trees. He plucked a pink flower and laid it on the stones that covered her. "I'm leaving tomorrow, Mama," he whispered. Crickets answered him, and Star felt hollow. He knew the story of his birth, how brave his mother had been, how she massaged him to life when he was born without a heartbeat, how she whispered secrets into his ears until he fell asleep, and how she bled to death in silence. Tears rolled down his wide cheeks and dropped to the ground. Where the tears fell, the soil shifted, and white flowers sprang from the dirt. This was another, less obvious, sign that he was different from the regular Pegasi. His tears grew flowers. Normally, he stomped them out, embarrassed, but tonight he left them. He liked knowing their roots were growing around the soil and around Lightfeather. After a while, Star turned and trotted back to his friends.